Well, would you believe it? It's absolutely so sunny. We've got loads of rain coming. We've got freezing weather coming. But you know, right now, this day, the middle of November, I've got something really important to do. I need a chainsaw. I need my Prunarbo 40mm shears, which are absolutely brilliant, and you'll see them in action again. And I need to enjoy the absolute incredible pleasure I get from having a look at the field-grown stock at Aveland Trees. I'm going to be having a look at a load of oaks. You're going to get to see what an incredible setup and what a lucky person I am to have this basically 25 minutes from me. This is probably the best place I've ever found in Lincolnshire for getting field-grown stock, and all of it is sourced from nearby woods. Hi, yeah, it's Xavier, and welcome to my bonsai retreat. And yeah, many of you will be saying, Xav, aren't you on holiday? And actually, yeah, I've still got another week off. But I got a call from Hugh of Aveland Trees, who you know I come to for my my field-grown stuff, some of which I dig up, and some of which he's dug up for me. And he said, you know what, Xav? I know you're doing that Hobbit project. I've got some oaks I pulled out of the ground that I really don't need because they're all wiggly. We like wiggly, don't we? And I sort of said to him, I said, Hugh, am I going to have to be digging all this stuff out? Because it's been pretty wet. And he said, no, come on down. He said, we've got some stuff like this. There's rows and rows of 4, 5, 6-year-old oaks. There's a whole list of stuff they've got. But you know what? He's got a load of material that they only dug out yesterday. I think there's some hazel in there and a few other, they call it buckthorn, I think. And they've got small leaves. Well, the buckthorn have, and berries. Well, they're out of the ground already, so I may not even have to get my shovel out. So let's have a look and see what's the important thing you need to be looking at if you want to retrieve any sort of tree from the wild. But I would suggest particularly field-grown stock where you've got a lot more control. And as I say, all the hard work's been done here because this got dug out yesterday, the day before. And many of you might be saying, well, do you know what, Xav? It's been out of the ground for that long. Surely it's going to be no good. Well, so long you've got a good set of roots, and in this case, a nice set of soil around the roots. If you have a look on the buds and flexibility, there's still, certainly on here, some green on the buds. So there's moisture that's been going up here, so it certainly hasn't dried out. And knowing what we do about our trees, they're pulling all that energy back in to the lower rootstock and to the trunk itself. You know, if I like this, I'm going to be cutting it here anyway. So what exactly should we be looking for? I'm glad you asked, because I get it wrong so many times in my excitement. Well, first of all, we're looking for something that's got that sense of age. That's why we're digging up, whether it be Yamadori, Yardadori, Garden Dory, who knows Dory, or indeed field-grown stock. You're looking for something that's already got a substantial trunk, or indeed an interesting base. And you know, there's a number that have already cried out to me. I think on this one, which is a hazel, we've got this incredible trunk and it's all very green. And I look at it and go, do you know what? There's a lot I can do with that. And all I need to do is take the top off. So it's got the base. And then what you're looking for ideally is, as you follow the trunk up, you want movement. And then you want a good lower branch. And if you've got that good lower branch in the first, for me, 6 inches probably, then you've definitely got a potential bonsai on the way. The big problem you've got is when you get those long straight ones. Because with the straight ones, you may have a nice, gosh, I got flicked in the face. Here's an example. You may have a nice thick enough trunk that you like, but if you look at here, bear in mind, my rule on anything I recover from nature is I only want the bottom foot. Well, we have a look at this, and yes, these will back bud lower down, but wouldn't it be much better if you actually had a branch that was already down there? So stuff like this, though I may be excited, and certainly back in 2018 I'd recover this, that goes in the pile of destruction. They'll burn that later on. Timber. And again, we've got more here. So the other thing you want to avoid, if you can, if you look here, although we like to see the sort of shari or dead wood or stuff like that on a straight trunk low down, unless there's a feature about it that makes it interesting or great for the eye, leave it alone. And I mean, I think I've made that mistake a number of times where you see what you think is an interesting feature and it actually mars the entire tree, especially if it dominates that first foot. And I've got a field elm, which I actually got from here, and it's got exactly that. In fact, I think I've got a small leaf lime linden as well. Again, you can never actually overcome that fault. So if you've got a choice like I have here, spend your time. I'm going to be here for 2 hours and I'm going to try and get myself down to probably 1, maybe 2. Because let's be honest, you all know, 700 trees, Av, you can barely look after yourself. And I think that actually brings up the next question. And Yella and I did a really good 2-part series together back in 2022 when we talked about Yamadori and dig trees. And I think recently you've seen him dig some stuff up. Well, asking the question, how much do you need to take? Well, looking at that, does that give you a good idea? Enough of the initial root structure there that A, it's going to stay alive once you cut it back, and B, that you can actually get it in your car. I mean, that is going to be really, really interesting, isn't it? 3 trunks, got a lower one here, lots of options. And the only thing that's going to happen is these roots here, which are probably the only ones keeping it alive, I'll cut those back and see what happens. So I think that's going to be the first one, bearing in mind I've only got a little bit of footwell space. And of course, one of the other things I would definitely hazard or warn you against is we can get excited when we get opportunities like this, and we haven't done our research on the trees that are available. Now, I've come in knowing I want oak for my Pangorn forest, and I was looking for some smaller leaf trees that have been planted here. But what I don't want is anything that's got great massive leaves. Yes, I've got some sycamores, but I'm not a big one for the walnuts or anything like that. And I think indeed the hazel can do, but I've already had some success with those, so I know I can reduce the hazel leaf. So yeah. Now here's an example of the sort of things that you can also find. These are some of the 2-3-year-old oaks, and there's a whole batch of them here. And, you know, there's nothing wrong. You get the opportunity like this of getting yourself sort of 14, 15 oaks, clumping them all together, and hey, do you know what? Do a fusion project like Kenneth likes to do. And the thing about this is, yes, you may find that, well, I've found that probably with the oaks that I get, maybe 20%, 1 in 5 may not make it.
The only problem with oak from the bonsai point of view is that when you plant it in the ground, it just puts down a big taproot straight down. And if you have to move it, lift it for whatever reason, you have to sever that taproot. And that is a lot of the root system is then lost to the plant. So you've just got to treat it a bit more carefully to revive it, get it back to life. But for you bonsai people, you treat them very cruel anyway, so that's nothing new for a tree.
Although I do like the look of some of the trunks on these ones that are planted, I don't want to spend an hour digging them up, when actually there's a load of stuff there which is only going to get burnt if I don't take it. So one, that's good for the environment. It means these good healthy trees get the chance to grow bigger and get to be sold to big buyers who want to create their own hedgerows and stuff like that. And the stuff there that has got exactly what I need, the great big thick root base, has got all the potential. It's already been dug up, and on top of that, it's going to waste. So let's not let that happen, shall we? Okay, well, I've narrowed it down to 4, and it looks like all of them are the hazels, which I know bigger leaf, but I've definitely got some sort of smaller hazels like that I've had some good results with. I suppose the first thing you have to look and recognise is, you know, have I picked stuff that fulfills the requirement? What I don't want to do is bring back, you know, 1 or 2 that really, when I look at them in deeply, are never actually going to be worth the effort, because the thing to remember is anything we dig up now, we're probably looking at a minimum of 2 years recovery time in a pot. So it's got to be worth the while. ideally, like this first one, you want it to have some interesting features. We've got low branches, got a nice thick base on the Nabari. Looks like we've got a good spread of roots. And there's also a bit of soil in there. So in terms of my viewpoint on that, probably good chance of success. So it's also got an interesting feature here, as I said, where a branch has been removed. Bit of deadwood work. Got to look at that, make sure it doesn't rot over the winter. I'm going to give that one a go. Now, I've actually, as I say, picked out 4. I want to narrow it down to 2, maybe 3. And both of these have got, well, this one's a lot thinner than the one you've just seen. Not quite the same base structure. And I think it may end up being 2 trees in there. But again, you've potentially got a nice twin trunk on that one. There's definitely a bit of rotting there. And that's when you start looking at it going, have I got too much rot down at the base? Which, you know, you think over a cold winter in the UK could potentially only get worse, making the effort of recovering this maybe not so worthwhile. So I'm not so sure on that. Which then brings us to this one here. Much thicker trunk. Again, we've got low branches. And the only thing about this one, again, this great big horizontal root, clearly it's not going to fit into a bonsai pot, but it's how much damage happens when I remove that from in there, because that could end up killing that second trunk. So then you have to say, well, if this tree doesn't have that second trunk, it just has this one, is it really worth the effort? So the way to do it is be honest. Have a look and see how much am I taking away. And if I take away that root, I am probably, well, I've got a good 2/3 of the tree left. I think it's worth effort, and I just need to seal that when I get back home. And here, again, we look, and perhaps not as interesting or breathtaking, but we've potentially got something decent in this trunk here, but very, very long and straight. Now, I'll say this, that isn't a big issue. If you've got a really nice thick base, you can just lop it off at 6-inch point and let it rebud and grow a whole new set of branches. Glasses are falling off. But I'm also aware that this isn't really going to be part of the design, which just leaves me that. And that's quite narrow. I've got some big thick trunks here. I think that's what I want today. And I think for me, many of you say, hey Zav, you're pretty lucky. You've got absolutely tons of trees to sort through, and they're already out of the ground. You can see the roots. And I think that's the big thing to say. When you have to dig them out yourself, and if you want a reminder, that video up there will show just the sort of troubles I went through digging out a tree. And sometimes you don't realise until a year or 2 later that all that effort really wasn't worth it. So minimum, make sure that first 6 to 9 inches is exactly what you want. It's got movement, got character, has got something that makes people go, wow, like that. So that when in 10 years' time you finally got it into a bonsai, because that's the sort of time it's going to take, 10 years, to grow branches and stuff like that, you can go, that's worth the effort. But I don't think this one really is. Now, the other thing I'm going to say is that before you actually start your dig, it's going to take you most of the day. Every time I've done a trip here or I've gone and dug anything up, I'm normally here for 2 or 3 hours. By the time I get back, you really, really want to have your soil, the pots that you're going to use already ready and set up, because the real dangerous point is the point between leaving the dig site and getting your tree back into some decent soil. Many of you will say, well, what should I take? Burlap? Should I have lots of stuff to keep it wet and damp? Well, the reality is I've only got to go 20, 25 minutes home, and then I can get these straight into some pots. So all I've got some plastic bags. I've got a bag full of sphagnum moss. I'll put the stumps into the plastic bags. It'll be nice and dark. They're still quite damp. And say half an hour from now, they'll be back home and I'll be getting them potted up. So they're fine. And I would say to you, if you're sort of not got a big, massive hike out of wherever you are, you can realistically just dig the thing up, whether it be a garden, whack it into the back of your car in a black bag and get it home. And, you know, if you're not in the middle of summer, which we're not now, we're literally middle of November, we're in the middle to latest stage of autumn. ideal time. These are nice and dormant. There's still lots of life in the upper buds. All I need to do is cut this down and get it home, really. So don't worry too much about all the sort of stuff you need and burlap and that. I think that's if you're hiking about in the ranges or something like that. Now, what I do need to do is use this fantastic Prunarbo electric Shears electric cutters. Now, you've seen it in action on my previous oak video. It's up to 40 millimeter. And absolutely brilliant. There's a great website for Prunarbo. You'll find the link in the description, along with, I think they've got a big Black Friday or whatever Christmas deal or sales going on end of November through into December. But yeah, the link will be in the description if you want to see if you can get yourself a bargain. But first of all, let's turn this on. So there's a button at the back there. Oh, nice little squeak. It's got a dial just here that shows you how much battery life you've got. And quick double press. If you don't do a double press, they won't open. And now they're ready. So we need to get this reduced down. And I'll say to you, don't be shy. And I am literally going to cut these. I've got this branch here, so look how quick that is. Same there, looking up close up. The safety feature is if you want to turn it off, you hold the button down. And that's it. And again, just a safety, just a single thing won't do anything at all. Let's have a look and see how good these cuts are. I mean, normally what we're most worried about is actually getting too much of the cambium or the bark peeling away and splitting, which will cause problems when you seal it. I'll use petroleum jelly in the car to seal these. Oh, that's reminding me it's safe. This one here, it's a little bit, that's what I mean when it pulls away a bit. We don't really want that, but certainly we've got a nice clean cut on this one here, lower down here, and on these ones here. Now with this one, the concern I had is this big root here, which the temptation would be to rip it away right now. But right now I'll keep that in place and just take that off. And again, these great big long roots here. And there you go. That'll be interesting. Safety. And by the way, they come with a replacement blade. They come with oiling stuff and everything. Really impressed. 2 batteries. What can go wrong? Both here. So far, I haven't had to use a chainsaw either, which is definitely a bonus with me in my hands. I'm just out here cutting this thing up, and I was wondering what on earth it was when I've got Hugh here. Hi, Hugh.
Hi, Hugh. Good to see you, Xavier.
And I thought, while I've got you here, I know you're really busy. In fact, I can see right now there's a load of work actually going on the fields. And,
yes.
In fact, we'll talk about that in a minute. But tell me a bit about Aveland trees.
Right. Well, Xavier, you grow bonsai trees, and at Aveland Trees, we grow woodlands and hedgerows. And we do everything that's needed. So we start by collecting seed. We've been collecting a lot of acorns this year. We grow the oak trees and all the other trees that are necessary to make a woodland. Then we plant them, and we look after the woodlands, and our end result is a woodland. So we grow woodlands, whereas Xavier grows bonsai trees.
Well, try to grow bonsais anyway. What I was going to say is I've been coming here, probably it's about my 5th or 6th visit.
Yes.
I think the first visit, that's my automatic cutter telling me it's safe. Isn't that a good safety feature?
It's very good.
Very annoying when you're trying to talk though. But I think my first visit out to you was either 2018 or 2019. And even then I was so impressed and how friendly you've been. And that was when I discovered all the oaks, because you said to me, well, I'll tell you what, we'll charge per foot on the tree, but the oaks that was all by the side, we said, oh, they're all rubbish. And you said I could have them for free. But what for you is a good tree?
Well, pretty well the opposite of your bonsai trees. we're growing woodlands for our trees, so we want trees which will grow tall, fast and straight. And I think that's about the opposite of what you got in bonsai. I mean,
That's tall, fast and straight, isn't it?
it might have been fast, but it's certainly not tall now, and it's definitely not straight.
I tell you what, I mean, when you saw it, it had another sort of 6 feet on it. I did joke with you, well, every time I come here, I says, can I just pay for the bottom foot?
He wanted to put the rest of the tree back in the ground again.
Yeah, we all know cuttings, hardwood cuttings, but yeah. Talking about that, I know you told me, but for those of you watching, you know my memory for species is atrocious. What is it I've actually got here?
You've got a hazel there. Okay. So that's, yes, it's about 4 years old. It's been left in the ground too long for us. We couldn't lift it last year because the ground was so wet. And so it grew well this last summer, and now it's just too big for our markets. Our markets for planting in woodlands are about sort of 18 inches tall. Once it and that was 6 foot tall before Xavier chopped it down. And we just can't cope with anything like that at all.
What I was going to ask you is, do you get a lot of visitors here? I mean, I found this by mistake. Someone mentioned you back in 2018, or have you tried seeing Hugh?
Yes.
And do you get a lot of people coming in, just like myself, visiting, wanting to dig around, pick up the odd tree here or there, or?
Not really, no. But if someone wants to come, they're very welcome. Give us a call first of all, and we can tell you if we're busy or if we're not. And if we're not busy, and you're very welcome to come. I can show you what's available and then leave you, as I do with Xavier, but don't forget to bring a big spade with you, because we're not going to help you lift the trees.
Realistically, from your sort of knowledge, how long can this stay out for?
Well, once you've chopped the leaves off, the leaves take the moisture out of the ground, and while it's got green leaves on, then the tree will be sucking moisture up from the roots. And you want to keep the roots as moist as possible. So if you're digging out the ground, chop off the tops, as Xavier's done, get rid of all the leaves, but keep as much soil around the roots as you can. And as long as it's got soil around the roots, it'll be fine. And for a short time, even these exposed roots will survive. And obviously in a wet time like we have at the moment, as is normally at this time of year, they're going to survive a lot longer. This was actually lifted out of the ground probably 3 weeks ago.
Oh, 3 weeks ago? I thought it was 3 days. I mean, they are looking.
But we scratched the bark, and you can see it's nice and green just beneath the surface of the bark. They've got a nice lot of soil all around the roots there. Yeah. So if Xavier just trims these odd bits of roots around here, I'm sure that will grow. It will send up shoots from down at the base, yeah, as hazel does naturally anyway.
So I've got the 3 hazels all wrapped up. I did put them in a black plastic bag, and I've got a bunch of those 15 or so loose oaks that you saw. And now I've got to have a look through oaks that are actually in the ground. And for those of you who've tried to dig up even oaks, I think these are 3-4 years old. That taproot's going to be down 6 feet. So this is hard work, and usual rule, about a foot circumference around the centre of the tree is normally enough of what I want. I'm going to be looking through here, and there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them. And I'm going to try and find something that has got interesting growth. Again, what are we looking for? Broad trunk, and then relatively low branches from the base. I've actually in here got a bag that's full of, well, what's left of the sphagnum moss that I got from Ryan Harton, well, way back in 2022. And it's nice and moist, so the 5 or 6 that I find, I'll just dump in there just to keep them moist. But apart from that, all you need, good pair of gloves, a nice sturdy shovel, and just a little bit of this. Well, I've been about 15 minutes looking around, and although just over there I've got a trunk that's twice as thick as the one I'm looking at right here, this one has got some lovely lower branching, lots of options and possibilities. Yeah, it's half the diameter, but that also means the taproot probably isn't going to go as far down. And I'm quite happy to go for some more, be some nice smaller showing. There we go. So we've got all the structure I want just here. A little bit of movement in the trunk, always ideal. and potentially cutting here. The tree continues that way with a branch here and here. So that's that big taproot, and there's a big one there actually. Get rid of those, probably cut it off up here. I'm going to wrap these in sphagnum, get rid of that great big, those roots. And I think, you know, I am the first one to say that, I mean, there's quite a hard bit of root there. Get rid as much as you can. And yeah, there is a chance that this one won't make it. But that's the thrill of doing your Yamadori dig trees and that. And when we take this back, you'll see I'll probably take off even more. But if it stays healthy, then we're going to get good roots here. The key is removing. So we're down to basically that. And then all I'm going to do is pack that in sphagnum. That's the first one, and hopefully we'll have 3 or 4 more. So I noticed that there's actually, well, I'm just going to call it a tractor because I'm pretty sort of everything that shapes a tractor, but you've planted them and you've allowed me to go right around and have a look at stuff in the oaks. What is the process? I mean, you've got them in the ground for how long?
We generally keep things in the ground just for 1 year. So we sow the seed in the spring and we lift them, as we're doing now, in the autumn. So it's just a 1 year crop.
Right.
We don't want them too big, but we want them to grow fast in that first year, to get to about 18 inches.
Right.
So this is hawthorn, which obviously is going to go for hedges. Countryside hedgerows throughout the country. You'll generally plant 4 hawthorn to the metre. So in this bed here, we might have 5,000–10,000 hawthorn. So that would be about 2 or 3 kilometres of hedge.
I tell you what, that's a lot of places for people to throw their McDonald's wrappers and beer tins. Because we all know, let's be honest, that's the biggest bugbear, certainly I find in the UK around the roads. All this lovely hedging, and it's actually littered generally with all sorts of rubbish because people are too lazy to take it home.
But the more hedging there is, the more habitats there are for wildlife, makes the countryside look a lot nicer. And also, if there's only a certain amount of rubbish being dumped, if you've got more hedges, then there's actually less rubbish per metre of hedge.
It's good, I like that. I've got a bit of statistics in there as well. What's going to happen with that great big orange wheeled tractor then? Okay.
It's lifting the trees, shaking the dirt off them, laying them in bed, and as you can see, they are then busy down on their, not on their hands and knees, but certainly bent double, picking up these. Don't forget, these are hawthorn. They are very prickly. And even with leather gloves, you hear the odd expletive coming.
I heard the odd expletive coming earlier, and if there's any consolation, if you watch my videos on, I've got a couple of hawthorns that I'm doing into bonsai, you hear the expletive quite a lot because we tend to try and cut the thorns off, but you don't get them all, and they are, especially when you start putting wire on them, they're an absolute nightmare. Look, I'm not going to get in the way of all the work you're doing. You've always been good to me. You've always been such a wonderful host, and I'm sure that if anyone else who's in the sort of locale who fancies having a rummage around, you'll be more than welcome to them as well.
Yes, tell them to get in touch with me and send me an email, and you'll give them the details.
Yeah, that's on the screen at the moment. So.
And yeah, they're welcome to come and see what they get.
The only thing I did notice that you've got another site that links to if people want to create their own woodland or stuff like that.
I have done. I do have their website. It's called growyourownwood.com.
Right.
And that's what we do all the time. We are growing woods and hedgerows. And this website explains to people a practical way of growing a wood, how to plan it out, how to plant it, and then how to look after the woodland. And I don't know if your camera can see it, but over there is a woodland that we planted 17 years ago, which is now magnificent woodland, full of wildlife and full of very fast, tall, straight trees.
No good for bonsai.
Hopeless for bonsai.
Brilliant for the environment, brilliant for nature and brilliant for animals. Fantastic. I tell you what, it's always a pleasure coming down here, and thank you very much for your time, and thanks so much for showing what you do as well.
You're very welcome.
Well, I've been here for a couple of hours now. I ended up with just the 3 oaks, And obviously I've got the 3 hazel, and they didn't cost me anything. I think they'll be fantastic trees, which I'm sure you're going to see soon. But as always, I had to buy something, and got some beautiful Lebanon cedar. So I've got this one here. I'm not going to be doing very much with it, but I think there's going to be a lot of fun with that in 2026. So all I've got to do, got mud on my boots, get those off. I've got to clean the car because Catherine is taking it down to Plymouth tomorrow. And tell you what, I bet this has gone on long enough. I've been hosted ever so well by Hugh. I'll say again, Aveland trees, if you're anywhere in the Bourne area in Lincolnshire, he's absolutely brilliant. There is so much material that you can use. And as I say, there's stuff like this as well if you don't want to be getting out there with your shovel and your boots. But I need to hurry on, get back and do some potting up. But I tell you what, why not we make that Tuesday's video where I show you exactly the sort of work I do this time of the year, and I'm trying to pot these up and try and maximise the chance of survival for those oaks and indeed the hazel. So from Xavier, I hope you've enjoyed this one. It's been a fantastic sunny day and well worth coming off my holiday. And if you want to see more of my oaks, that's the video. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing you in a few more minutes when I'm potting up. Happy bonsai and God bless. Cheers.